the Jordan thing, and it's not a fair comparison at all, but this is fresh on my mind. He is the only athlete now, and I didn't see a ton of them, but he's the only athlete in my lifetime I've ever seen play that has never, ever, ever let a championship or a big game get away from him. I don't remember him ever, like, everybody else has faltered on the biggest of stages. Like,
See,
Jordan, he never did. And that's so amazing.
So here's my issue with that statement. He never did. And then we need to get back to Zach Martin because we have gone. This is fun. Here's my issue with that statement. People say that, but then that means they're not including all the times he didn't even make the finals. It does like he never let a big game get away from him, but he lost Eastern Conference Finals. Like,
yeah, but that was on his way up. I mean, that you have to have. You're not going to come in the league and make the NBA Finals every year.
I understand that, and it's not a slight. That is not my attempt to slight the greatness of Michael Jordan. Yeah. But he did come up short a lot of times. It just like in his.
Oh, Scotty, I spend a lot of time telling people how smart you are. That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard you say.
Hey, I'll take it. We can do this again Monday morning to get the week started. My frustration comes. People want to rip like a LeBron for making 10 finals and losing some of them. And I'm like, okay, but he won the Eastern Conference more than Michael Jordan. I'm not saying that makes him better than Michael Jordan, but like, let's not knock a guy for winning his conference 10 times. Like,
I'm not even having the LeBron argument right now. I'm just saying, like,
I know that, but like people were ripping Mahomes for coming up
I don't. That's not no. But I'm not. I can say I've never seen. I mean, dude, we're talking 6 NBA titles.
Oh, I know.
And literally, he basically won 6 in a row because he had those 2 years where one year where he was gone, and the 1 year where he came back so late that he was out of shape. And to me, I always made this analogy, and then I'll say this, and we'll get back to Zach Martin. If you ever watch Superman 2, or maybe it's 3, when Superman is mortal and he goes into the diner and he gets his ass kicked, right? Christopher Reeve is like a mortal guy, and this guy beats the shit out of him in a diner. That's kind of what it was for the Michael Jordan and the Bulls when they lost to Orlando in the Eastern Conference Finals that 1 year. And then the next year, Michael Jordan was back in shape, a full season back to playing. And just like Superman goes back into the diner when he has his super strength again, and he just plays tunes on the guy's face, same deal. Michael Jordan was like, we're going to sweep the Magic, like, I'm back. So the only time I ever saw him falter after he turned the corner, per se, was in that one season where he wasn't really up to speed. Everything when he came back, to me, that's like what we were talking about yesterday. That was all like found money. I never thought he was going to win a championship. He was damn near 50 years old. Yeah. And Bear the Truth says, Bear the Truth, I got one for you, and you can answer this whenever you want. I was thinking about you last night or 2 nights ago, and don't get carried away there, Brian. But Jordan's on another level, especially mentally, he says. I want to know who's a better all-time athlete in Chicago for Bear the Truth, Walter Payton or Michael Jordan. I can't believe we never asked him that. All right, now you go back to Zach Martin.
Yeah, let's just cut that conversation off. But we can do this anytime, Pete. The Jordan stuff is fascinating to me. Yeah, but, Zach Martin is going to walk into the NFL Hall of Fame, in my opinion. He'll waltz in. He should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He should get a lot of love in the coming weeks for his career. But it does just, for me, articulate and remind me freshly of the talent the Cowboys have been able, because there's a lot of teams, Pete, you look over the Cleveland Browns history at quarterback and you just shake your head and you're like, man, this team's just never had the guy. The Cowboys have had the guy at multiple positions multiple times. Like, I'm going to put this list back up one more time.
And I want to ask you a question when you put this list up. What is your reasoning as to why they never won a Super Bowl with this lot of talent?
Jerry Jones.
What one thing can you put your finger on? And you can't say Jerry Jones.
But I just did. Why can't I say Jerry Jones? Because
he didn't play quarterback. And he got all this talent on the field. Like, something else was in play.
No, but here's what Jerry Jones did. And it goes back 30 years, 40 years. This is his history with that level of talent, right? And I think this matters. You might not think this matters. I think who your head coach is really matters. in the NFL. And the bottom line is Jerry Jones has had 3 Hall of Fame coaches work for him, and he couldn't get along with any of them, and he fired all of them because he cannot give up too much power or control, including over on-field decisions.
It's a fair point.
Meanwhile, like all love to Wade Phillips and Jason Garrett and Mike McCarthy has won a Super Bowl. Like all those guys are not terrible coaches, but they were there and they lasted as long as they did because they bent their knee to Jerry Jones. And so I don't know the details of how that makes a difference day to day on the field or in a tight playoff game. But, even in this last coaching cycle, like it's Brian Schottenheimer. Why is it Brian Schottenheimer and not Bill Belichick? Why has Sean Payton said out loud that he would like to coach the Dallas Cowboys and he's never come back to Dallas? Why has Deion Sanders been in the news, but he's not going to come to Dallas? It's because nobody with a spine, and most Cowboys fans would acknowledge this, no head coach with a spine and with a will to do it their way is going to last long with Jerry Jones.
So if I'm understanding you, and you're making a good point, but like a guy that has the actual metal, right, and fortitude to win a Super Bowl is not going to be attracted.
Well, they're not.
That job.
They're not going to tell. The guy that's going to win a Super Bowl is going to tell Jerry no, and anyone who tells Jerry no either doesn't get hired, or in the case of Bill Parcells, just doesn't last very long. Bottom line. And we were maybe this is where we tie it back to Jordan, right? It's about the mentality. It's about the championship mindset. Like, I think Jerry Jones isn't lying to you when he says, I want to win a championship, but he thinks that includes making football decisions. And a Bill Belichick, I guarantee you, if Jerry did call Bill Belichick, the first thing Bill would have said is, I need control over personnel. And I guarantee you, Jerry said, hell no. And that's just not going to fly. Any football coach with a spine who can win a championship, Sean Payton, I think Sean Payton would be a dream head coach in Dallas. He wants to be in Dallas. He would never cooperate with Jerry Jones.
How does the Zach Martin retirement affect the Cowboys on the field? Regardless of where else he was going to play, he's not coming back to play for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
So they got a little worse. I mean, they were without him for most of last year, but you get my point.
Well, and you've seen the offensive line really decline in the last few years with Tyron Smith departing and now Zach Martin retiring and not able to play some this season. Like that group has greatly declined, and the struggles were apparent. The Cowboys couldn't run the football for the last 2 seasons. Dak Prescott, God bless him, I don't think he's a Super Bowl champion caliber quarterback, but he also has not had good protection the last couple of years. That's part of why he keeps getting hurt. So it definitely doesn't help you on the field, and I think it just adds to this. I told you a couple of weeks ago, Pete, like Prescott frustrates me and Jerry frustrates me because they keep saying, oh, we're so close. We're right up close to the Eagles. I'm going to tell you right now, the only offensive lineman currently with the Dallas Cowboys who could start for the Eagles right now is Zach Martin, and he just retired. So like this delusion that the Cowboys are right there, this is just another bullet in that. I got
one more question for you on this, and then we can wrap. We're sitting here right now. We'll label this way too early prediction from Scotty, but the NFL playoffs are easier, you would say, to reach than the college football playoff.
Yeah.
Who has a better chance of playing in the postseason? Baylor and Dave Aranda, or the Cowboys and Brian Schottenheimer?
I love that, Pete. That's a scandalous question. So cards on the table, both of them face long odds, I would say. But I today believe the Baylor Bears would have a better chance of reaching.
Wow! Get out of here!
And that is not. You've heard me express some lack of confidence. Look, Bear the Truth agrees with me.
Yeah.
You've heard me express some lack of confidence with Aranda. So this is not so much my confidence in Baylor as much as I am so discouraged about the state of the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know what Dak Prescott's going to look like post second, third major injury. I don't know if Brian Schottenheimer's a good head coach. The only asset the Cowboys have that I know is good is CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons, and one of them might get traded. So
Overshown is great too. He's got to stay healthy. I think he's amazing.
I don't know what he's going to be like coming off an injury. You just
Yeah.
don't know. So at least with the Bears, I know who my quarterback is. He's going to be one of the 3 best in the league. I know who my tailback is. He'll probably be the best one in the Big 12. I think Bryson Washington, best running back in the Big 12 this coming season. And Baylor is on a upward trajectory, whereas Dallas, downward trajectory.
You know what Cam was trying to do the other day? When I told you I was on Locked On Baylor, he was trying to compare the possibility, and I called him out on the show, shock jock type stuff. He was trying to compare the possibility of Baylor having a similar season that West Virginia had this year. So you're coming off a great, exciting year, a lot of fanfare, and you fall flat, and then your coach gets fired. And I totally disagreed because of what you just said. I think Sawyer Robertson is way better than Garrett Green, and West Virginia had no running back who was anywhere near Bryson Washington. And you can even take it into the wide receiver situation. I cannot wait to see the attention that Josh Cameron gets from NFL scouts this year, because the guy is, if he's not a guy that can be a burner for you, he can certainly move the chains and gain yards after he gets dinged.
Well, and we didn't even talk about this on your show, Pete, but Ashton Hawkins was given.
Him coming back is amazing, dude.
And then you've got the 2 big transfers. So that wide receiver room is suddenly really deep.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Here's what I'll say for Cam, because I have doubts about Dave Aranda, and I hope I'm dead wrong. That is not an impossibility. I do think Baylor's talent is better, but you lose 3 of those first 4 games in that tough opening instead of winning 3 of them, and it could be you could lose the team.
He asked me to predict, and I'm positive Pete. He asked me to predict the first 4 games, and honestly, I put the first 2 as losses right now. I did. I mean, that's those 2 games. As much as you believe Baylor could win them, they could lose them just as easily.
I think
that's all I'm saying.
Baylor should be favored over Auburn. I don't know.
Oh, they should be. They should be.
I think if that game was at Auburn, I'd be way more concerned. I think.
But I also worry.
You have to win that game with Auburn in your building.
And I worry a little bit that second game. I know that I in the past have perceived SMU as the old SMU. But that game it could be their first home game. That place is going to be packed with SMU fans. I know Baylor will travel well. It's a short trip, but I would imagine the Mustangs will do everything in their power to jam that place full of actual SMU fans. And their team is going to be better. And they were in the playoff last year.
Oh, I think that's the game we're most likely to lose, actually. And it's mostly because we do get Arizona State and Auburn in our building. But I think, that SMU game is tough. I'll address this real quick since our guy asked. If Aranda gets fired, bear the truth, which Baylor's going to have to do really poorly for him to get fired. I don't think he's in charge of a Power 4 program. I think he's the DC at a contender.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's what he does next. He'd go to Ohio State or Oregon and be a DC. And
part of me wonders that if that's where he is most comfortable as a man. He's clearly someone with great passion that is never going to give up, right? He's a fighter. He's shown that. And he wants this job, and he wants to succeed at this job more than anything. However, I think if things were to change and, ultimately the ball doesn't bounce your way, I think he could go back to being a lifetime assistant and be very happy doing that. I think he has a lot of anxiety around a lot of the stuff head coaches
coordinators make as much money as they make now. He could go be the best defensive coordinator in college football for the next 20, 30 years and make a great living.
Oh, yeah.
But that doesn't mean he won't. Anyway, we're getting way ahead of ourselves.
All right, we're getting way off. We're getting way ahead of ourselves.
I think Baylor has a better chance to make the CFP than the Cowboys of making the NFL playoff.
By the way, do you notice Spav or Aranda as head coach? I would take Aranda. I think Spav.
Yes, Spav has not been a good head coach.
And by the way, bear the truth. Maybe you can take the weekend to figure out who you like better, Michael Jordan or Walter Payton, because you never answered the question when I asked you. All right, the Pete Souza Show. We're going to be back on Monday. We mentioned we're going to have Claire Sanema I'll talk to you all about my trip and covering Baylor because that's pertinent to our show. I love when the worlds collide. So we'll go in on Baylor and that game, and then we'll talk about, the rest of their season, how the Big 12 shaking out, developments over the weekend, all the good stuff. Slovacics, thank you very much. D1 Dallas, Daniel Stark Injury Lawyers, Socorro Family Ford. We'll see you Monday.